So pumped about this one. Coming up, an interview with one of my favorite singers ever. He's one of only a few artists in rock history who's had a hit with 3 different bands and as a solo artist. His voice was all over radio from the mid-70s into the 80s, even into the 90s. Today, he tells the story of his classic rock and soul hit from the mid-70s that's actually fooled a lot of listeners throughout the years. Many of us thought the song was about a cheating lover, but it was about something else entirely. It was going on at the time. This singer wrote it. Inspiration came when he was riding on a bus, and he hurriedly wrote the lyrics on his bus ticket, but he ran out of room. Would he remember the lyrics later on? Find out next how this affected the song. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Today's interview is really cool. Before we get into it, I do want to invite you to subscribe below right now so you get our daily features and the stories of the songs straight from the legends themselves. Also, take a look at our Patreon where we'll release some full interviews. I am so excited to bring you a great episode from our series Revelations here. Revelations, of course, where featured artists go very deep on their greatest songs, their greatest albums, stories you really won't get anywhere else. Man, oh man. Today's interview, so cool. One of my favorite singers ever, like I said. I've been trying to track him down forever. Finally got him. If vocal talent truly equaled fame and fortune, this guy would be the biggest singer in the world. He had hits in 3 different bands. He also had hits as a solo artist. Here's just a little preview of some of his biggest hits throughout the years. I'm talking about rock and soul's greatest vocal journeyman, Paul Carrick, aka the man with a golden voice. He's had so many hits, fronting Mike and the Mechanics, including the #1 smash, The Living Years. As well as the iconic hit Tempted with Squeeze. Solo hits like the 1987 Top 10 smash Don't Shed a Tear. And of course, his first hit with his band Ace, the 1975 classic, How Long? The story of How Long, really interesting. Most people think it's about adultery, but it's not. It's about a real thing that Paul and his band were going through, and he'll let the cat out of the bag, as well as tell you what happened when he was trying to write the song on a bus. He was writing it on his ticket. He ran out of room. It's coming up on our exclusive interview. As we sit down, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the brand of glasses I always wear. Zenni is amazing because you can design your own pair of glasses, what looks great on you, and you can do a virtual try-on at their website before you purchase to see what you look like. You can add other amazing features for up to 80% off regular retail prices. Just click on the info button right here to get our best deal, or there's a link below. Here's our interview with Paul Carrick. Let's talk about one of the most soulful songs of 70s radio, How Long? This is a song that's easy to interpret as a song about an unfaithful lover sneaking around, but you had a completely different inspiration when you wrote that song. Tell us about that.
Basically, as I said, we formed this little band, Ace, to play wherever we could. And we were playing in the pubs around London. There's this thing called pub rock, very adventurous name, but we were having a lot of fun. We were a very tight band. We loved playing soccer. That was our main reason to get together. But we were friends with another band who were doing a little bit better than us. They had a record contract and they had some support tours of America even. I think they supported Elton John and people like that. And it's like, they borrowed our bass player, Tex Coleman. Their bass player was ill and they borrowed our bass player for a couple of gigs. And to be honest, they were trying to sort of coax him into leaving us and joining them. So we were a little bit deflated about that concept. In fact, we weren't deflated. We were pissed off, because anyway, long and short of it is Tex stayed with us, but and we got a song out of it that's still around today. That's how long.
Friends with their fancy persuasion.
Indeed.
I'm always curious on songwriting. Did it all fall at once, or was it a one line at a time? Tell me about how it came to you.
It happened pretty quickly, I think. I mean, we'd had that progressive band, which things, we did a 20-minute opus, and things are very pretentious. So when we started Ace, we were just writing songs. And that's when I first started writing, little pop songs and everything. And I borrowed a Revox tape recorder, and that was a stereo tape recorder. But what it meant was you could record a track, and then you could bounce it over to the other side of the stereo and dub over. And I was having a lot of fun doing this. And somehow or other, I stumbled across the chord sequence. And the hook. And then at that time, I was pretty skint. But my wife, well, she's my wife now, but back then she was my girlfriend. She had a job, and she was keeping us alive, basically. Once a week, we used to go around to her mum's to get a decent meal. Anyway, we got on the bus, and I literally wrote the verse on a bus ticket, which is probably why it's only got one verse. Yeah, I literally wrote that on the bus ticket, the lyric going home. But, I stacked up that 3-part harmony on this tape recorder. And even then, it sounded pretty strong, Well,
I know that you went, or at least I've heard you went through several versions of the song before you made the final recording of How Long that we all know and love, that's heard every day on radio. You and your bandmates initially were thinking of something Motown flavored, right?
Well, that's how I heard it. I one of my favorite ever records in the world is Reach Out and I'll Be There. And that sort of thing. I heard it as that upbeat thing. And in fact, we were doing it live in our little set. Kind of like that. We managed to sign a record deal with a very small label. I think that was what had swung it, actually, because they'd come down and see us, and I think they saw the potential in that song. And they put us in the studio to record it as a single. And we were all quite inexperienced, really, in the studio. And it didn't happen. We went into some studio in London, and I guess we were a bit uptight or whatever, but we tried to record it. It just didn't happen. And in the end, the guy who was producing, a guy called John Anthony, he said, "Look, let's just forget this." And because we went down to what they call a residential studio in Wales called Rockfield. And he said, "Look, we had 2 weeks booked down there to record our album." And he said, let's just wait till we get down there and we'll do it as part of the album. But that's kind of when it changed character, because we were having a great time. We used to play, soccer all day long and get wasted and record in the evenings. So we started messing around with How Long, and it just came out at a much more sort of laid back. I think they used to call it a West Coast sounding record. So that's how it evolved.
Well, Tex Comer made it to the recording, right?
He certainly did.
Yeah.
He certainly did.
Well, the guitar work from Phil Harris was really cool because there's that mysterious, almost sinister tone to the guitar line. Very effective in the song.
It was a classic classic solo. I don't know if Phil ever played that again, but Phil was really a great blues guitarist. He was a bedroom guy, you know. I mean, he would play acoustic guitar in his bedroom. He was a big fan of Robert Johnson and people like that, and it was one of his first electric bands. But you mentioned the sound of it, that guitar, and I remember, because we did dub the solo on. We did very little dubbing on that album. It's pretty much as we are. You know, we set up in the studio and we played the thing, and you know, you would all get excited. The red light would come on, and you try and grab a moment. The guitar sound was, again, he plugged his guitar into the Revox tape recorder, and they kind of turned the input right up so it distorted, and they put some kind of phaser on it afterwards. But yeah, it's a great solo.
Well, recording the vocal, the way you approached it when you recorded it, and the way you approach it now, you know, you said you never intended to break. I love how a singer's voice ages through the experiences that they've been through. I love your recording of it a few years back, where you start the first part and it's very slow, and then you go into it. Your friends with their fancy persuasion. It's like when you hear Frank Sinatra sing One for My Baby when he's in his 60s or 70s, it's way different than when he recorded it. Make it one for my baby and one more for the road. And Joni Mitchell, when she sings Both Sides Now, I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow. It's a maturity of the experiences and the, you know, for some of them, the tens of thousands of cigarettes and Jack Daniels and everything, and the experiences, and it all just comes into this really cool feel. And that's what I love about your music, how when you re-record it, it's different colors, different shades.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, even that one is, I can't remember, we recorded that in the early 90s, I think, the re-recording thing. But no, I think I'm singing better than ever, to be honest with you, if I say that myself. Who knows how long that will be, but you know, I try and take care of myself. I don't abuse my voice, you know. I don't smoke. I don't drink hard liquor. I like a glass of wine, but when I listen back to some of the earlier recordings, I don't like them at all, actually. I think it sounds too tight, too tense. How Long's not bad, but at that point, I'd never really sung on records at all, you know. That was one of the first times I sang, and as I said, I do prefer my voice now. I think it's got a bit more to it, you know.
But it's such a smooth voice. It's kind of like this genre that they've made up 30 years after it was a thing, yacht rock, and like you say, West Coast AOR, all that kind of thing. And they've kind of taken some of those songs and said, well, this is what it is. Steely Dan and Toto and Kenny Loggins and Michael McDonald, that kind of stuff.
You mentioned some people there. I mean, Mike McDonald is unbelievable. But he's a different kettle of fish, because he just has that place in his voice where he goes into that, I don't know if that's what they call a head voice, but it's not a falsetto, but it just slips into that. I can't go there. I'm working on the lower stuff, you know, as I get older.
Yeah, you guys were definitely romanced by soul and Stax and Motown and those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
I do have to mention that How Long is one of Phil Collins' favorite songs.
Is it really?
Well, released in 75, went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, went to number 1 on the Cashbox chart. So sales-wise, it was number 1. And also in Canada, number 20 in the UK. For a lot of artists that come out of England, there's always this mystery about breaking the American market from interviews that I've done. Something that's, I don't know, is intoxicating about success in the US. And here's a song that you wrote gradually climbing up the UK charts, but it killed it in the US.
Well, obviously, it was unreal, I think it's probably, I mean, I'm certainly glad it happened, but in a way, we weren't really prepared for it. We were just watching it go up the chart and getting excited, because back in those days, it could be a gradual thing, not like it is now, comes slamming in and then disappears. But, and we got to come to America, which was like going to the moon, really, because from austere England at that time to the US and the home of rock and roll, it was just mind-blowing, to be honest. And our first tour, we were opening up. We were the opening act for Yes. We were very established, arena band. And we kind of got away with it, I think, on the strength of, because that was a big old hit, I got to say. It was a big radio hit.
Oh, yeah. And still big now. Is just used on an Amazon Prime advertisement I saw. It's been used in pop culture, Invincible, the movie.
You and your thing?
EastEnders. It actually went back into the charts. I don't know if you were aware of this, but it was number 8 on the Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart in 2020.
I don't even know what the charts mean anymore, but I think my mom definitely, she had the Cashbox chart framed, not the Billboard one, the Cashbox where we were number 1.
I don't know if you've heard some of the great covers. There's some interesting ones. Ambrosia. Lips Inc. did a dance version that actually charted. Rod Stewart did a version. Oswald and Yaz.
The first cover we had on that, Bobby Womack. So wow, that was a feather in the old cap, because an absolute legend.
It's such a brilliant song. I always wonder why Ace couldn't follow up with another hit.
I think there were a number of reasons. I mean, we didn't really have another song like that on the record. I mean, because I mentioned Phil, the guitar player. He was, very much into blues and country and a different style. I was very much into soul and all that stuff. And from leaving school until, in my early 20s, I was absolutely broke. And I thought it was a great opportunity. And I was keen to sort of, let's get professional, let's... but they were much more sort of... some of the other guys were a bit more sort of, nah, man, we're laid back, and we didn't want to be commercial and all that. I was like, I do. But, I mean... I guess we were very naive, we were very inexperienced, and whatever we came up with, the record company guys would say, yeah, it's not bad. We need something like How Long, So that was a little bit of pressure.
Well, I have to say, if vocal talent equaled huge success, you would be the biggest out there. Because like I said at the beginning of this, you are truly one of my... I actually had to do this. There's an article that somebody reached out to me to do a top 10 list of my top 10 favorite singers, and you were on that list. I just love your voice, always have, and the way you interpret a song. And just the timbre of your voice. It's incredible. So
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that, because I know you're a music guy, and you know you love your music, and you're into it, and you go in depth, and so I'm honored. It's great to talk to you. Let's do it again.
thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about this all-time 70s masterwork. What are your memories and your thoughts on this song, the band Ace, and of course, journeyman singer Paul Carrick? What do you think of his other work and his other bands, about his voice? Let's have a great discussion below in the comments. If you like our channel here, make sure to subscribe below. We would love to have you as part of our community. We always talk about the best in music. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.